Welcome back to our discussion, How Intelligent Automation and AI Are Transforming Government, sponsored by KPMG on Federal News Radio, part of the Federal News Network. My guest today is Kirk Everson, Principal and Government Intelligent Automation Leader at KPMG. I'm your moderator, Tom Temin. And Kirk, in this final segment, let's talk about, well, some of the basics here. How do you acquire intelligent automation, robotic process automation? Is it something in a box? Can you go and download it, or is it more than that?
Great question, because I think there's a lot of confusion as to what AI is, right? It's not, is it a black box or not? I think it's a number of things, but primarily I'll kind of break it down into, I'll say two things. You've got the vendor ecosystem around the technologies, and then you've got the implementers of that technology, or the service providers that can help agencies augment their current workforce to implement these new tools and techniques. You look at the RPA space, there are RPA vendors that focus just on RPA, although they are instantiating a lot of cognitive techniques into their RPA platforms. As you move up the stack, if you will, to the more advanced analytics and AI, a lot of the larger, more cognitive automation vendors are actually moving and out of necessity to cloud-based APIs to be sure that you can leverage the compute power of cloud and frankly the volume of data that needs to be processed in the cloud environment. And so from that perspective, you're not buying this big on-prem rack, you're actually paying by the drink, if you will, for the usage of those API calls. RPA, you're going to buy a platform or potentially, which could be on-prem or on the cloud. And so agencies need to look at, what's the right vendor for my use case. Again, you don't want to kill a fly with a hammer, as they say, and throw cognitive automation as something that can be addressed with RPA. So I think, as I mentioned before, having the user community and your workforce understanding the technologies as a baseline, but also what use cases apply to the right technology. And then who do you want to help you implement that? A lot of agencies have mixed teams where they've got their own employees trained up and they're working alongside a service provider like KPMG. We're bringing in data science and other experts to help supplement what they're doing, and then getting them trained up and upskilled so again they can manage this on their own. So again, to kind of summarize, you really want to have the technology provider from a vendor perspective, and you want to have the folks that can help you implement that.
It sounds like you need to think about performance, basic performance, and especially if it's a digital service that's going to be nationally deployed, and architecture, because you're not buying a rack, so this is not something to put in your agency data center.
Right.
In fact, it sounds like you would want to have multiple instantiations across the country in different clouds, just for sheer performance.
Yeah, I think you're gonna want to make sure that you have whatever continuity of operations that the agency requires. So if you're, especially for agency mission-related work, so if you're using cloud-based APIs to bring in machine learning algorithms or natural language processing and things like that are mission-critical processes, you're going to back those processes up just like you would normally back up your servers that are processing that mission data. And so I think a lot of agencies, they get kind of caught up on, well, this is new technology, and how do we apply this to our infrastructure? And I would argue that follow your existing processes, follow your existing SDLCs, follow your existing security controls, understanding that there are certain nuances to these new technologies that are in place. So you're still going to look at service level agreements, you're still going to look at uptime metrics and things like that. It's just applying kind of different algorithms to those use cases.
Can your SLAs include, say, response time for a citizen or user, such that if they type in something to a chatbot, it's not going to take 2 hours to respond, or 2 minutes, or maybe it should be 20 seconds?
Yeah, I think you can. I think it depends on the use case. I think ultimately, if the agency has a requirement for immediate response or 24-hour response for email responses, that should be definitely a requirement that is passed on. The nice thing about these technologies is it does have the ability to provide that instant feedback and the ability to understand sentiment, the ability to understand tone. So that customer experience, that customer interaction becomes almost inherent in the technology.
Yeah, so you can really read what's going on, or the machine can read what's going on and maybe tailor the response if it sounds urgent or it's an emergency versus, how do I file XYZ form?
Or if it turns out it's a new use case that the technology can't process, it can actually hand that citizen off to a real human if you've got a call center situation, without the human really seeing much of a speed bump, if you will.
And just backing upstream one more step, what are some of the best practices in setting requirements in the first place?
I think it's important to remember, obviously, the federal government and state and local governments have been focused for the longest time on a waterfall approach. And I think with these technologies, everyone knows that the Agile approach is going to be extremely important. You want that constant feedback. You want that constant iteration with the community that's using the tool, but also the folks that are building the tool to make sure that you're going to meet those requirements in a timely manner. Because I think we all know I want to download that app and I want to use it immediately, right? So waiting 3, 6, 7, 10, 12 months to get something up and running is sometimes not meeting the expectation of the citizen.
So it sounds like starting out in this whole RPA area, you need to have a good, strong vision, but you've got to stay agile and flexible on your feet to really deploy it in the best way.
Yeah, and I think it's having immediate and ongoing access with the folks that aren't the technical people. It's the folks that are doing the day-to-day that have the best expertise in that process. And so that's where the Agile process comes in, is making sure that you can get that data in real time and understand that process in real time. And let's improve that process while we're doing it, right? We can automate bad processes all we want, but maybe we take this opportunity to actually re-engineer that process.
All right, good place to end on. I'd like to thank today's guest, Kirk Everson, as Principal and Government Intelligent Automation Leader at KPMG. I'm your moderator, Tom Temin. You've been listening to Federal News Radio, part of the Federal News Network. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search KPMG.